Okay, so have a look at this. This is my outline for an essay on discipleship. Wonder if you can see this. Yeah, and I have four kind of like points that I want to cover in this essay on discipleship as a mark of mission. And so this is my intro. I look at a podcast called the Theology Podcast. It's by two friends, Edril and Yenping Teo. That's why theology. And very interesting, in one episode, they talk about discipleship here in Malaysia. I learned that a lot of discipleship happens in the form of like conferences, very large contexts. And I guess that's very efficient, one pastor teaching a lot of people, discipling lots of people in their churches. But what I also learned in this podcast is how most youths would rather have it one-to-one. And what's surprising, surprising statistic in this survey that they did amongst 511 youths in Malaysia is that only 11 youths claim to be in a discipleship relationship currently. So only 2% of all the people they surveyed amongst the youths in Malaysia are in a discipling relationship currently. So that's going to be the basis of my introduction. And then I move on to look at my own personal experience serving in church. So I serve in this church here on the discipleship team. That's why I chose this topic for this essay. And I guess the most unique thing about my church is that, Alpha happens in this church. They run this course called the Alpha course. It's meant to be an introduction to the Christian faith. So it's for newcomers. It's for people who are not Christians to come and ask questions. But in my view, my experience, I see this also as a kind of a discipleship course because mature Christians are encouraged to be involved. So they serve on the Alpha course as group leaders, as facilitators, that kind of thing. So it's actually very good training, doing evangelism as a mature Christian, answering questions that non-Christians have about the Christian faith. So Alpha happens here, but you also see a kind of like pipeline. Someone who comes in as a newcomer goes through Alpha, and this is very well thought out. There's another course called Discipleship Basics, helping you walk through the basic foundations of the Christian faith. What's the Bible? What does it mean to pray? How do you serve in church? That kind of thing. And then we also have small groups. We encourage people to be in a close-knit community called CG, so Connect Groups. And so you can see they kind of like fit one into the other. Now, what's also interesting in my experience serving in this team, I've been there for about 15 months, so over a year now, is that alongside this, we also have something called pastoral services. And this is just kind of like how we serve the church based on their needs on a much more individual basis. So when they want to get baptized, we organize those baptism services, but also when someone dies, we organize the wakes and funerals. And what I see here is kind of like complementary in terms of how discipleship happens in life, but also at the beginning of life, when they first get baptized, but also towards the end, from the cradle to the grave, if you like. So that's my church context. And then I want to look at the Bible. What does Jesus say about discipleship? So I'm trying to see this upside down. He gives us a great commission, doesn't he? Make disciples of all nations. And then he mentions, baptizing in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So there's baptism there. And also teaching them to obey everything that I've commanded you. So these elements of helping people come into the faith and grow in their knowledge of the faith, especially by learning about the words of Jesus and obeying it, we see that here, elements of that in the church. So we're trying to be obedient to Jesus' call to disciple Christians. But then I also thought about how Jesus says to us to make disciples of all nations. And therefore, we're meant to think beyond just our church, beyond just maybe even our own people group, our own country. And this is where missions come into play. You go to other places which have not heard about Jesus and you tell them the gospel. And I guess I have a question here. How much discipleship can be done within the context of the local church? Or how much realistically should it be done just within the confines of our church? And maybe we should be looking bigger when we think of discipleship. Not just how can I disciple my own people, but how can I make disciples of all nations? So that's kind of like a question, a stretching exercise when we think about discipleship, not just as something that we do, but something that maybe we do together to reach the nations. So that's looking at the Bible. And then finally, this one I haven't really thought out clearly yet. I want to think about digital discipleship. That's because, when I think about the theology podcast, that's a digital thing. It's online, it's on YouTube. And even in my church, a lot of alpha, these groups are being held online. And I think about how there's a kind of resurgence of Christian discipleship online. One clear example is this very, very good podcast. I'm a big fan of Let's Get Real. And I think Let's Get Real is a podcast whereby prominent Christians are interviewed and asked about what it means for them to be Christians in their sphere of life. And because of their prominence, people go, oh, yeah, I know that person. But then, oh, wow, I'm learning about what it means for that person to trust in Jesus and what it means for them to serve Jesus within the context of their work, of their influence, of their relationship with people. And so that's a kind of glimpse into the life of a Christian that we see online. So just a kind of like thinking exercise as to how there are new opportunities online. And, even this video, it's hopefully a positive example of how we could be doing discipleship online. There are limitations, of course, we want to explore those, but I think there are unexplored opportunities. But further afield, thinking also about AI, what opportunities or pitfalls do things like ChatGPT pose towards this challenge of discipleship? Lots of people are going to ChatGPT not just to find answers, but to find, comfort, to find a friend. And they're asking questions of life towards ChatGPT, which maybe would be better answered by someone they know personally, someone they can trust and grow in that relationship. But just thinking about that potential and also those pitfalls. So this is kind of like my outline. I haven't written my essay yet, but kind of like the 4 broad strokes of where I'm thinking in terms of what it means to do discipleship now, but also in the future, to do it well, to do it faithfully, but also what are the challenges ahead. Discipleship as a mark of mission for the church today.